Hello everyone, welcome back to Believer Science Academy, Bengaluru. This is Daily News Analysis. As usual, we'll discuss important articles for the day. So the first article for today is about COP30 that is going to happen in Brazil. So it is from an editorial. So in Brazil, COP30 and the moment of truth. This article or editorial is written by Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, who is the president of Brazil. So Brazil is the host of COP30. So it discusses about what to expect from COP30, what are the issues and how you should overcome these things. So what is the context? The context is about the COP of truth. So the Belém summit in Amazon sets the stage for COP30, which is going to be hosted by Brazil. Lula, the president, calls it the COP of truth. Why? Because it is a turning point where global leaders must shift from rhetoric to real action against the climate change. Enough of all your speeches, enough of all your words. Now it is time to bring action. Now it is time to shift to rhetoric. Next, the message is failure to act decisively will erode faith not only in the COP summits but also in multilateralism itself. So he calls it the moment of truth or the COP of truth. Next, historical continuity from Rio 1992 to Belém 2022. So Rio 1992, which is famously called as the Earth Summit. So here the Brazil's leadership in environmental diplomacy dates back to the Earth Summit in 1992 Rio, where landmark conventions on climate change, biodiversity and desertification were adopted. That is Rio Earth Summit of 1992 resulted in 3 conventions. One is United Nations Convention on Combating Desertification. Next is UNFCCC, the most famous one, United Nations Framework on Combating Climate Change. And then is UNCBD, that is United Nations Convention on Biodiversity. These 3 were the Rio Trios, together called as Rio Trios. So this showcases the Brazil's leadership in the past moments where it was time to take stand against climate change. Next, now 33 years later, the world leaders returned to Brazil, to the heart of Amazon to reaffirm and update those commitments. Lula stresses that COPs or COPs should no longer be showcase of good ideas but moments of tangible, verifiable progress. You hear after each COP, so convention has been made out, this protocol has been taken out, these many countries started these initiatives, etc., etc. So many ideas, so many things, but how many of them come to action? How many of them bring real changes? Very few of them. So he is saying that instead of bringing the ideas, bring tangible changes to the climate change. Next, the key principle is climate justice and the shared responsibility. Prime Minister of Brazil, that is Lula, reasserts the principle of common but differentiated responsibilities as non-negotiable. What is this common but differentiable or differentiated responsibilities? Because the current climate change is a result of global warming, okay, which itself is a result of industrial revolution, which happened in 18th and 19th century. And who were the beneficiaries of this industrial revolution? It is the Western countries, notably UK, France, USA, Russia, etc., etc. So the current changes in the climate, the current global warming is a result of this industrial revolution, with the beneficiaries belonging to Western countries. So they have to share higher responsibilities, because the global south, the developing countries, the global south, these are the developing countries, they require some leeway, they require some time to bring development. So they are going to compromise on the climate change. So here this compromise done by the global south has to be compensated by the Western countries, because they share higher responsibility, because they were the initial beneficiaries of this industrial revolution. But what is happening now? These countries are escaping that responsibilities. They have benefited already from this global climate change. They have already benefited from the industrial revolution. But when the time is now to give back to the society, give back to the world to fight with the climate change, they are escaping it. They are saying we are not going to provide fund, we are not going to be part of climate change goals unless and until so and so countries involved. For example, Donald Trump said USA and in China are also emitting the same amount of carbon as USA. So they have to be brought into non-annexed countries as well. They have to be held to the same accounts or same standard to the USA itself. But he is forgetting that India and China were not the beneficiaries of Industrial Revolution. It was USA. So they have emitted in the previous past as well, and they are emitting now as well. So they have to compensate extra, which is a simple concept but not understandable to the Western countries. Next, the global south, he argues that seeks not charity but climate justice, that is fair access to finance and technology. Next, developed nations having benefited from the carbon intensive industrialization must honor their debts by funding mitigation and adaptation in the developing world. Okay. Next, Brazil's commitments and leadership. He argues about Brazil's commitments and leadership in the past COPs as well. In forest conservation, Brazil has halved deforestation in Amazon in 2 years, proving that decisive climate action is achievable. So they have reduced deforestation by half. Next, launch of Tropical Forest Forever Facility, that is TFFF, which is an investment fund and not a donation scheme, rewarding the countries that preserve forest. For this TFFF, Brazil has pledged $1 billion to the TFFF. This is a win-win situation or model that incentivizes conservation while generating returns as well. Okay, that is the country which is focusing on afforestation will be rewarded. So you are not only resulting in reducing the climate change, but your economy is also not compromised here. Next, nationally determined contributions. Brazil is the second country to present an updated NDC. The target is reduce emissions by 59 to 67%, covering all greenhouse gases and all sectors. Calls for other nations to match this ambition and move towards implementation and not mere promises. Okay, India has also updated its NDC. India has also brought Panchamitra. So along with Brazil, India is another country which is striving strong in climate change efforts. Next, energy transition and economic reorientation. Brazil's energy mix is already among the cleanest globally, with 88% of electricity from renewables, leadership in biofuels, and rapid expansion in wind, solar, and green hydrogen. So, Lula envisions redirecting oil revenues to finance just and equitable energy transition, and he predicts that global oil firms, including Petrobras, will evolve into broad energy companies as the fossil fuel model becomes unsustainable. So, Brazil is not only doing it from the government side, it is also doing it in the energy transition level as well. So, they are swiftly moving towards or have already moved towards the green energy transition. Next, he links climate action with social justice. He also emphasizes on people-centered approach to climate and energy policies. The most vulnerable, those are the poor, rural, and marginalized groups, face the harshest effects of climate change. So he announces the declaration on hunger, poverty, and climate at Belém, aligning climate action with human development. So climate action or climate change has direct impact on human rights as well, direct impact on social justice as well. The people at the lowest levels of the society are the ones who are most affected by this climate change, be it the farmers, be it the poor people, be it the rural economy. So in order to compensate them, we have to address the issues of climate change, in order to make sure that they do not run out of livelihoods, in order to make sure that the social justice is maintained. You have to compensate their efforts. Okay, that is what Bellamy is arguing here. Next, the reminder, he reminds us that 2 billion people lack clean cooking fuels and 673 millions live with fear, not fear, with hunger. Hence, climate justice and food security must go hand in hand. Next, reforming the global governance. Lula criticizes the UN Security Council's paralysis in preventing wars and ensuring peace. Proposes the creation of United Nations Climate Change Council linked to the UN General Assembly as a credible and accountable mechanism to monitor compliance, enforce commitments, and revive faith in effective multilateral climate governance. Okay, he is calling for the reforms in United Nations as well. He says that United Nations is not been effective in stopping the wars. United Nations has not been effective in reducing the climate change. So as a result, he calls for new organ, that is United Nations Climate Change Council within the United Nations General Assembly, so that it can focus more on the climate change itself. Next, finally, he gives message to the world, that is time is to move from promises to action. Lula concludes by declaring that the end of an era of good intentions. COP30 must deliver action plans, not declarations. Belem COP is envisioned as turning point where nations prove their seriousness and unity in safeguarding the planet's future. A very important, beautiful article. But once the COP is over, I will bring a topic of the day together, where I will discuss about the impact of COP30 and also the outcomes of COP30 in Belém, Brazil. Okay, that is for another day. Now, moving on to the second article. Second article is again an editorial which discusses about clean up the voter list urgently, but not the Bihar way. This is written by Praveen Chakravarti. He talks about changing the voter list, that is remove all the unnecessary voter names which are present in the voter list. We have to change, or we have to clean the voter list, but not the way it was done in Bihar. Okay, so he talks about important various other mechanisms on how you address this issue. First, the core issue, that is the faulty voter database. That is, India's voter list violates basic data principles. That is, voter ID numbers are not unique across states. Example, voters in Bengal and Uttar Pradesh can share the same ID number, showing technical incompetence. Okay, two states, three different people, but same UID. So this is also negatives. Next, this duplication threatens electoral accuracy and credibility. Next, serious security loopholes. Anyone can change a voter's registered mobile number via format without the voter's knowledge. Using the new number, one can even debate or delete a voter's name from the rolls. 6,000 genuine voters were targeted in Karnataka's Aland constituency, which was exposed by Rahul Gandhi in 2025. Election Commission of India later quietly shifted to Aadhaar linked to mobile verification, indirectly admitting the systematic flaws. Next, need for the cleanup, but not in the Bihar's way. The special intensive revision was taken up by the Election Commission of India to clean up the voter list. To clean the voter list is necessary, that is special intensive revision is necessary, but must not follow Bihar's flawed model. The Bihar's SIR was hurried and politically motivated, leading to deletion of genuine voters. Approximately 64 lakh voters were removed in Bihar electoral roll. Many of them believed to be genuine electoral voters, but they do not possess voting rights now. Next, such rushed exercise damages trust and weakens democracy. Next, Aadhaar is a key to deduplication. That is, Aadhaar linkage ensures every voter has a unique, non-transferable ID. And ECA's argument that Aadhaar isn't proof of citizenship misses the point that it may not be a proof of citizenship, but not every Aadhaar holder is a voter, but every voter should have Aadhaar card for clean rolls. So they are saying you don't have to bring every person who is holding Aadhaar as a elector, but at least make sure that the person who is eligible for voting has an Aadhaar card. Rejecting Aadhaar reflects technical ignorance and deliberate evasion of the duty. Next, door-to-door verification is very essential. That is, genuine cleanup needs household level verification, not online self-enrollment. Example, Telangana completed door-to-door enumeration of 3.0 crore people in just 2 months. So that can be followed in the rest of the country. ECI should adopt this model instead of rushed 1 month revisions. Next, include political parties in processes. That is, Election Commission of India must jointly work with all the political parties. In Maharashtra 2024, opposition evidence of fake voters was ignored, leading to alleged manipulation of the election itself. And the SIR process should include multi-party consultation at all the levels, be video recorded and transparent, and end with publication of digital machine readable voter rolls. Okay. Next, the other calls for way forward. That is, cleaning voter list is crucial, but trust, time, and technology must guide this special intensive revision. A credible process should involve these three things. One is Aadhaar link verification, second is door to door checks, and opposition participation or the political party participation for accountability. So a Bihar style hurried purge must strictly be avoided in rest of the country. The key message is India needs clean voter list built upon competence, inclusiveness and transparency, and not hasty bias or secrecy. Okay. Next, third article is about content of court in India. What is content of court and what is the constitutional basis of this one? Everything we will be discussing now. The context is why we are discussing this topic is, or the context of recent controversy is recent alleged derogatory remarks against the Chief Justice of India and the Supreme Court have raised concerns. What is it? Such comments, especially spread via social media, may erode public trust and obstruct justice, forming grounds for contempt proceedings. What happened was recently, even the slippers were thrown at the Chief Justice of India, that is B.R. Gavai, because of his remarks on a temple. Okay, so there is a reduction or there is a trend in India where the reverence that the Chief Justice of India and Supreme Court used to enjoy is on the low. Okay. Next, this issue highlights the balance between free speech and the respect for judicial authority. Just because you have free speech doesn't mean that you can make derogatory remarks against judicial authority. That is what the article argues about. What is the constitutional basis? Constitutional basis for the free speech is obviously Article 19 Clause 2. It provides freedom of speech and expression. That is, and also Article Clause 19(2) puts certain reasonable restrictions on this free speech, allows reasonable restrictions on free speech for contempt of court. And in Article 129 and 250, it declares that Supreme Court and High Courts as the courts of record, meaning any judgment or any record that is given by the courts of Supreme Court or High Court can be used as a precedent by the lower courts. Next, a court of record means judgments are preserved as evidence and it has inherent power to punish for the contempt as well. Next, the constitutional power is elaborated by the Contempt of Courts Act in 1971. Under this contempt of the court, there is one more provision. The judiciary has upheld that the contempt of court doesn't only mean to Supreme Court or High Court, but also the contempt of lower judiciary as well. Okay. Next, types of contempt. In contempt, there are two types. One is civil contempt, another one is criminal contempt. What is civil contempt? It is mentioned in section 2B of the Contempt of Court Acts of 1973. It is willful disobedience of a judgment, decree, order, writ, or breach of an undertaking given to a court. I will give an example. So the court has already provided a judgment, that is there is a willful breach of undertaking as well. That is, a person will be giving an undertaking that I will go to so and so police station and I have to give my thumbs now and then. So that is the undertaking given to the court. But now if he refuses to go there and give his thumbnail or give his thumbprint to a particular institution or particular police station, then he is contempt in the court, and that contempt of court is civil contempt. Okay. And again, if there is a judgment, for example, the Supreme Court has already provided the judgment that women are allowed to enter into Sabarimala court. Now, if a person is willfully disobeying it, meaning if he is not allowing a woman to go into the judgment, go into the Sabarimala temple, he is violating the contempt of court, but that is civil contempt. Next, criminal contempt, section 2C. What is the criminal contempt? Publication or act which leads to, scandalizes or lowers the authority of any court, prejudices or interferes with the judicial proceedings, or interferes with the administration of justice. For example, if the scandalizes or lowers in the authority of High Court, recently, like almost 4 or 5 years back, there was an incident which happened in High Court of Hyderabad. What happened was, instead of there was an argument in the court and the court has provided a judgment. So in reaction to that, a person in the court showed his finger next to this one, that is the middle finger next to this one. He showed up middle finger in the court and he was put with the contempt of court charge, that too a criminal one, because he scandalized or lowers the authority of court here. Next is prejudices or interferes with the judicial proceedings. So normally you might have seen in the old movies of Kannada, where the judge himself is kidnapped. So the kidnapping of the judge or interfering in the judicial proceedings comes under willful disobedience. Criminal contempt, and interferes with the administration of justice. That the court has already provided some judgment and you are not allowing that judgment to be carried out. It is also amounts to interference in the administration of justice. These three come under the criminal contempt of court, and this willful disobedience and breach of an undertaking come under civil contempt of the court. Next, hence, contempt is more than mere disrespect. It covers acts threatening judicial independence or justice delivery altogether. Next, procedure for initiation. How do you initiate this contempt of court procedure? First, proceedings may be suo motu by the Supreme Court or the High Court. Okay, suo motu in the sense the courts are taking the case by themselves. Then, or by a third party with the consent of Attorney General for the Supreme Court or Advocate General for the High Court. Okay. Next, judicial interpretation and the key cases. There have been various cases about the contempt of the court. First is Ashwini Kumar Ghosh versus Abhinandan Bose of 1952. In this case, the court held that fair criticisms of the judgments is not contempt. Okay, court has given a judgment. If a person is criticizing the judgment fairly, without any intent to derogate or without any intent to lower the respect for judiciary, then it should not be considered as contempt of court. Only unfair, malicious or scandalous attacks qualify as contempt of court. Very important, remember this judgment. In case there is a mains question about the contempt of the court, this case is very important to argue against contempt of court in the analysis. Next, Anil Ratan Sarkar versus Hirak Ghosh 2002. Here, the court held that power to punish for contempt must be used cautiously and sparingly. And next, in M.V. Jayarajan versus High Court of Kerala. In this case, abusive public speech against the High Court order amounts to criminal contempt itself. And finally, in Shanmugan at Lakshmi Narayanan versus High Court of Madras. That is, purpose of contempt power is to uphold the administration of justice and not individual judges. Okay, so recently there was a case. Judge went outside and attended RSS meeting. So there was a criticism against the judge, and judge wanted the contempt of court. But many held that you are not lowering the Supreme Court or High Court here. You are just only criticizing the individual judge. So individual judge does not mean contempt of court itself. Next, limits of criticism. That is, constructive criticism of the court action is permissible in democracy. So just because you are a judiciary and just because you have the authority of the Supreme Court or High Court doesn't mean that your work cannot be criticized. Many people criticize the work of judiciary so that there is lots of pendencies. Such fair criticism or constructive criticism should not be considered as contempt of court, especially in a democracy like India. Next, however, misrepresentation, falsehoods or personal attacks can damage public confidence, violate constitutional morality, and undermine judicial independence. Though these are not covered in contempt of court, they still lead to these kind of things. This is one of the limits of criticism. Next, what is the broader democratic implications? That is, judiciary's credibility ensures rule of law and substantive justice. Next, misuse of speech that diminishes judicial authority threatens democratic principles and citizens' faith and justice. So, contempt of court is very essential in a democracy like India, so that the respect and the reverence that the judiciary demands must be maintained. A very important article and very beautifully explained as well. Next, moving on to mass rapes and humanitarian crisis in Sudan's El Fasher. Okay, a very disturbing event that is happening in Sudan. So, in El Fasher, one of the city in Darfur region of Sudan, there is a mass genocide, mass killing is happening in this particular city, El Fasher in Darfur. So bad that the bodies or the dead bodies and blood stain of the killing can be seen from satellite. Okay, these dead bodies or blood stains can be seen from the satellite. Just imagine how bad the situation must be. Normally, when we use the satellite, we will be able to see Wall of China, we will be able to see Taj Mahal, we will be able to see large monuments. Okay, but what is happening here? When you are able to see from the space, you are able to see dead bodies and the blood stains of mass. Okay, that is how the situation is. That is how bad the situation is in Sudan. So before we understand this particular issue, let me discuss you, or let me tell you about the Sudan. How did Sudan end up here? Okay, so what is Sudan? Sudan is a North African country which is present in northeastern part of Africa. If this is Africa, and this is Horn of Africa, and this is Egypt, Algeria, and here comes Sudan, South Sudan, Chad, and Eritrea, Ethiopia, and then one more thing is here Chad. I'm not able to remember other countries. So this is Sudan here. Okay, this is Sudan, and this is South Sudan. So previously these countries were part of a single country, but later they were divided into Sudan and South Sudan. So let me discuss you about the Sudan conflict. So this is the geography. This also comes under Sahel region. Okay, Sudan is also part of Sahel region, which you might have studied in geography. Next, the Sudan conflict, the legacy, colonial legacy. What happened in Sudan was initially under the control of United Kingdom. It was a colony of United Kingdom. Once the United Kingdom left Sudan, Sudan was predominantly an Arab ethnic community. Okay, Arab communities were majorly present in Sudan, and so obviously the control of Sudan went to neighboring Egypt. Okay, and after that the control of Sudan even went to USA for some time. So the control of Sudan has never been with them for a long period of time. So the control kept on shifting from UK, etc., etc. Once the United Kingdom left Sudan, they just, instead of studying the ethnicity, studying the population demographics properly, what they did was they did what they do in most of the countries they left. They just drew a map on the map. They just drew a country on the map and decided that this is your country, go and rule yourself. Okay, so because of this colonial legacy, what happened was it fell into chaos. So as soon as the British left, there was a fight among themselves for the power. So there were majorly fight between North Sudan and South Sudan. North Sudan was dominated by sorry, Arab Muslims. Okay, and South Sudan was dominated by Christians, black Christians, and ethnic groups. And famously, the South Sudan was dominated by two famous ethnic groups, that is Dinka and Nuyers. Okay, so since the country was divided and they were dominated by these communities, Arab Muslims, all the major powers went to Arab Muslims. So North Sudan had all the political power, whereas South Sudan had the economic resources. That is more than 70% of this economy was present in South Sudan. Despite having the economic resources, the powers were present in North Sudan. So there was a long conflict between North and South Sudan, which led to civil wars. Finally, South Sudan was separated in 2008. Okay, sorry, 2011. In 2011, South Sudan split from North Sudan, and again South Sudan again went into economic conflict, again went into civil wars within themselves between Dinka and Nuyers. There was ethnic cleansing of Dinkas by Nuyers, and there was genocide in South Sudan as well. But we'll discuss about South Sudan some other time. Now, once this South Sudan split off, what happened was 70% of the economy, such as oil resource, gold resource, went to South Sudan. So what happened in North Sudan? Obviously, they went into economic depression. They went into economic turmoil. Okay, economic turmoil in North Sudan. And also, North Sudan was, or Sudan itself was ruled by a long dictator, that is Omar al-Bashir. He was ruling Sudan for almost 30 years, whose dictatorship ended finally in 2019. Once this dictatorship ended in 2019, there was a fight among the generals. Okay, Before it was a fight between North Sudan and South Sudan. Now the fight shifted to within Sudan, East Sudan and West Sudan. Okay, East Sudan and West Sudan. The fight shifted to East Sudan and West Sudan. These two areas were ruled by two generals. Okay, those generals were working together under Omar al-Bashir as long as he was the dictator of Sudan. Once he was imprisoned and once there was a coup, they decided to bring a civilian military-led government for a period of time. But in 2021, that civilian government fled away, and again there was a conflict between two generals. Who are these generals? Abdel Fattah al-Burhan of Sudanese army. He is from the government, majorly dominated by Arab communities, and this belongs to East Sudan. And the other leader is Mohamed Hamdan Dagalo, or famously known as Hemeti. Hemeti is owning RSF, or that is Rapid Support Forces, RSF. This is in news at the moment. This group is the one that is causing Darfur genocide at the moment. This particular group was also responsible for Darfur genocide that happened between 2003 to 2008. But the group was not called as RSF then. It was called as Janjaweed Militia, which was under the control of Omar al-Bashir, who led to mass killings in this Darfur region. He killed many ethnic and non-Arab communities here. Ethnic and non-Arab communities were killed by this Janjaweed Militia, and now they are under the name of RSF, that is Rapid Support Force. They support this Hemeti, and the Sudanese army supports Abdel Fattah. And this Abdel Fattah is supported by Egypt because of the Arab heritage, and this Mohamed Hamdan Dagalo Hemeti, he is actually a billionaire because of his control over gold mines. He is supported by UAE because UAE is dependent on his gold, and also is supported by Libya because Libya is used as a transit channel to transport or smuggle this gold from Sudan to Libya. And also he is recently being supported by Russia as well. Why? Because of the gold again, because Russia finds benefit from this RSF or Hemeti because of the golds. So because of the support of these people, initially what happened was the control of Sudan was under the control of SAF. SAF decided that in 2023 of April, they decided that we are going to dissolve this RSF force and we are going to merge it into Sudanese army. But they decided that we are not going to dissolve this RSF. Who? The Hemeti people, the supporters of Hemeti. They said that we are not going to dissolve RSF. RSF is an individual army. It is under the control of Hemeti. So what happened was there was a prolonged conflict. Initially SAF was winning, but what happened post the support of UAE, Libya and Russia was that RSF is gaining power. Okay, RSF is gaining power, and it started fighting all the people who are the supporters of government, and everyone who is non-Arab, who is ethnic, all the people were killed by this RSF. Okay, they wanted to show that our might, they wanted to show their might. The small militia group started the band, and they called themselves as RSF. They started targeting everyone, such as Christians, such as non-Arab communities, such as the ethnic communities like Nuyars, Dinka, etc. All the tribal communities were killed en masse in Al-Fashir, which is the capital of Darfur region. Okay, so what was happening in 2003, the genocide of 2003 is re-happening again in current Sudan. Okay, next, this is the largest humanitarian crisis. According to United Nations report, 1.5 lakh deaths have happened in the ensuing conflict between 2023 to now, and also 1.8 crore people have been displaced. So United Nations had recently said that this is the largest humanitarian displacement crisis, even greater than Syria, even greater than Ukraine. But we barely hear about this Sudanese crisis. Okay, I'll discuss about that some other time. And also, this is a direct outcome of this particular war or conflict. These are the indirect. That is, 80% of the hospitals have been damaged, and which has led to 400 to 500% inflation in the food crops. Obviously, it has resulted in famine, and this famine has obviously resulted in cholera, and again this has resulted in deaths of so many people. And also one of the gravest humanitarian crises or inhuman act happened in October 2025. In October 29, 2025, what happened was these RSF forces marched into hospitals and killed 450 patients inside the hospitals. They didn't care whether it was a child, whether it was a pregnant lady, whether it was someone else. They killed them en masse, and they disposed their bodies on the ground itself, which is visible from the space. So that is how significant the crisis is. This is the background of Sudan crisis. I think I explained it very well. Now moving to the news article. So it is talking about fall of El Fasher. So El Fasher, the last Sudanese army stronghold in Darfur, fell to rapid support forces. As I told you, initially the control was under Sudanese army, that is SAF, Sudanese army forces. Now it is being taken away by RSF. On October 26, 2025, after an 18-month siege marked by starvation and bombardment. This fall triggered mass killings, looting and abductions, and sexual violence. Communications have been largely cut off, worsening the information blackout. Next, testimonies of the atrocities. So in these articles, they ask certain survivors of these particular atrocities, such as Amira, who is present now in Tawila, said that described public mass rapes, torture and killings by RSF fighters. Women were raped in front of the families and communities, creating an atmosphere of terror. Any conflict of this kind, civil war, etc., etc., most impacted people or the community of the group is women, because the first thing our winning army or the winning forces do is rape the people, rape the women, so that they create an atmosphere of terror, so that they get back against the opponents. Okay, next. Those unable to pay bribes for safe passage were assaulted or had their daughters taken by force. Again, women are the victims of crisis here as well. Next, scale of sexual violence. Doctors Without Borders, which is an NGO, MSF, says that over 300 survivors sought medical care after RSF attacks near the Zamzam camp, which displaced almost 380,000 people earlier. Next, Amnesty International says that RSF uses sexual violence as a weapon to humiliate, control and forcibly displace communities. Next, both RSF and the Sudanese army have been accused of conflicts related to sexual crimes, with impunity persisting for 2 decades. Next is gruesome incidents and the UN confirmation. In Korma and Garni, survivors reported that nighttime assaults, torture and killings, and women raped at the gunpoint, and girls searched in invasive ways under the pretext of looting. Men were slaughtered with knives in front of their families. So these are all very gruesome things which are happening in Sudan. Similar thing is happening in Congo, similar thing is happening in Libya, similar thing is happening in Chad as well. Next, similar thing is happening in Nigeria as well, in Boko Haram. They are en masse killing Christians, because the Boko Haram is a Muslim Islamist radical group. Next, United Nations Human Rights Office. At least 25 women gang raped in a displaced persons shelter near El Fasher universities. See, these displaced people go to shelter to seek shelter, seek protection. But what is happening here? Even in the shelters, the women are mass raped. Okay. Next, humanitarian toll. In the El Fasher alone, 65,000 people have fled El Fasher since its fall. 5,000 now in shelter in Tawila, already burdened with 650,000 displaced. Next, living conditions, makeshift tents, food scarcity, contaminated water, and no medical or psychological aid. Add to that famine and cholera. Next, survivors suffer from severe trauma, especially children who witness the killings in front of their eyes. Next, calls for the global intervention. Local humanitarian groups and the United agencies demand immediate aid, food, water, and medicine, and trauma counseling as well. Activists urge the international community to break the silence and act against sexual violence as a war trade. But the international community, majorly the important forces like USA, UK, etc., are mum on this particular issue. They are not raising the issue. They are very keen on raising the issues against Israel or against Russia in the conflicts, but they do not have any strategic advantage in this particular issue. Here, they raise their issues against Israel or Russia because they have always had a negative relations with Israel or Russia. They want to highlight the issue, so they come out, criticize, they help the Gaza, help Ukraine, etc. But in Sudan, they do not have any strategic advantage here. Both the groups do not offer them anything much here. Say they do not care here. Then the situation reflects failure of the global response mechanisms and collapse of accountability in Sudan's prolonged conflict. What happened was, in 1980s, there was one of the worst genocides in Africa. That was in Congo. In Congolese, more than 8 lakh people. 8 lakh people were killed. 8 lakh people were killed. 8 lakh people were murdered by the Congolese army, which was one of the largest genocide issues happened in recent past. So during that time, the United Nations and the more major countries took a pledge that we are not going to allow any such kind to happen again. But now that it is happening in Sudan, now that it happened in Sudan in Darfur region before as well, no one is coming forward. So they are being a mute spectator to these genocides again. Next, broader implications. The atrocities underscore a pattern of gender-based violence and impunity in Darfur's decade-long conflict. Without urgent global action, Sudan risks another Rwanda-like humanitarian disasters. So even in Rwanda, there is a humanitarian disaster. Next, survivors' testimonies are a cry for justice and protection and not just aid. So this is how significant the issues that are happening in Sudan. Next, moving on to the prelims pointers. I think I already tracked this too much. It is already 40 minutes since I started the news analysis. Now, moving on to the prelims pointers about Bandipur tiger reserve. So, recent update is Karnataka State Minister for Environment has ordered the stoppage of one late evening safari trip each, that is jeep and bus, at the Bandipur tiger reserve in its first phase. Okay, I will start about the location and geography. It is situated in Mysuru and Chamarajanagar districts of southern Karnataka, lies at the tri-junction of Karnataka, Tamil Nadu and Kerala, forms an ecological confluence between western and eastern Ghats. It once served as a hunting grounds for the rulers of Mysore. It is part of Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve, which is an UNESCO World Heritage Site. Next, surrounding protected areas, Nagarhole Tiger Reserve again in Karnataka, Madhumale Tiger Reserve in Tamil Nadu, Wayanad Wildlife Sanctuary in Kerala, and these are all together part of Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve. Next, rivers Kabini River and Moya River in the south. Climate experiences tropical climate with a distinct wet and dry seasons. Flora, dry deciduous to tropical mixed deciduous forest, rosewood, Indian kino tree, etc. And fauna hosts largest population of wild Asian elephants in the South Asia. Other key species are Bengal tiger, gaur, sloth bear, golden jackal, etc. etc. Next, significance, crucial corridor for the elephant and tiger movement within the Nilgiri landscape, plays a vital role in biodiversity conservation and ecosystem stability of southern India. Next, Indian mouse deer. A rare Indian mouse deer was recently photographed in Tungareshwar Wildlife Sanctuary in Vasai. This is this particular rare wild mouse deer. Okay, it looks like a mouse, but it is a deer. Next, it is an Indian mouse deer or Indian spotted Chaurotian. Is a species of ever-toed ungulate belonging to the family of Tragulidae. Scientific name is Mostiola indica. It is the smallest deer species found in India and it is known for elusive and shy nature. It is endemic to Indian subcontinent, mainly found in peninsular India with some old records of Nepal as well. Sri Lanka has a separate species called spotted Chaurosian, that is Mascolia and Meminia. Next, within India, it is commonly encountered in a number of forest areas along the Western Ghats, Eastern Ghats up to Orissa and the forest of Central Asia. It is very small, 25 to 30 centimeter at shoulder height and weighs up to 2 to 4 kg only. The fur is brown, dark brown, white covers, etc. etc. as you see here. And musks of this species have tusk-like upper canines, and the diet is majorly fruits, roots, leaves, etc. Lifespan is up to 8 to 12 years. And the conservation status in the IUCN, it is the least concern. So this ends today's news analysis of the day. It took time because I was explaining too much about Sudan as well as news, various things. So if you like this video, then please hit the like button, comment on it and also share with your friends. And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon so that you don't miss any notification. With this, I will end the video. Jai Hind.